You're listening to Retail Redeveloped with your host, Adam Williams.
We are joined today by someone I consider a friend and a heck of a restaurant operator, one Patrick Whalen. He's the owner of Five Church. Many of you in Charlotte and Charleston know it very, very well. Pat, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So Pat and I first met each other. I'm gonna go back a little ways. It must have been 7, 8, 9 years ago. Pat was running the hottest club in town and reached out to me to talk about restaurants, and definitely didn't think I'd be talking to you, better part of a decade later and multiple restaurants later.
Why not?
Because I have a lot of meetings, man, and you were just another meeting to me back then. But little did I know that you were gonna open some of the hottest restaurants in multiple of the hottest cities in the Southeast.
I mean, I don't think that I thought that either. I think if you asked me then, it'd be like, I hope I have like a bar somewhere.
So Pat, obviously we've known each other a long time, but I know a little bit about kind of the way your brain works. So I want to talk to you a little bit about just why urban. Obviously, I'm very passionate about urban retail and urban restaurants. Sure. So why is urban so important? Why is downtown so important? Because it's competitive. It's easy to get lost with all the office density. Why, in your world, is that an important part of the way you like to do business?
I mean, the easy answer is that it's the common marketplace, right? Is Main Street, downtown, which developed into city centers in the last 100 years or so. I mean, you're talking about areas where there is constantly a critical mass of people, and not only a critical mass of people, but typically a fairly diverse critical mass of people, not only across gender and age, but also across, affluence and religious background, race, etc. And that melting pot is ultimately what I think makes for a healthy business environment for the restaurant business, because everybody likes to go out to eat, everybody likes to go out to drink, and the more diverse the environment, the more kinds of concepts that can succeed. The more kinds of concepts can succeed, the more people go. The more people that go, the more people there are to choose from. So downtown living and downtown restaurants, I think, are the beneficiary of diversity, which is why we obviously have tried to stick with those kinds of locations for our brands.
And so what is it about your brand that you think makes it successful in those type of environments? I've been a part of many restaurants since Five Church these years ago. What is it? The 5-year anniversary? Is that coming up?
Yeah, no, it's over. It was in May. So
5+ years ago, I've seen a lot of restaurants in Uptown Charlotte, for instance, or downtown Charleston come and go. What is it about Five Church that sticks with people? In your opinion, what makes it thrive, even though a lot of other people are open and closing all around you?
Right. I think it's me. I think it's just all that. I just think it's just tremendous effort by me. No, I think that Five Church in particular, I think tapped into at the time, this is 2012, early 2012, tapped into a completely underserved marketplace, which is people between the ages of 25 and 55 that wanted an upscale night out but didn't want a steak, and that didn't exist in Charlotte at the time. The reason why so I think that was what kind of launched us. Obviously, we had the DNC when we first opened, and that got us a lot of press. But I think that early filling of an empty marketplace got us our start. Now, the answer as to why we've lasted and why we've continued to thrive after all these years is I think that because we were successful from the outset, we had time to make mistakes. And that's really something that, you hear about restaurants that are closing and after 6 months or a year or 18 months or whatever. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they don't have time to really figure out how to be successful. And without the cash flow and without the customer base, it's really hard. I mean, it's really hard because you don't know why people aren't coming to you until they come to you. And so we were lucky enough, or whatever you want to call it, fortunate enough to have a built-in customer base when we started because of the kind of brand that we were, and that gave us time to screw up, frankly, and make mistakes and piss people off and then win their business back. And that's helped us stand up the test of time, I think.
And on that vein, obviously you've been doing this a little while now. What would your advice be to a chef, a manager out there? Maybe it's a back of house guy or a front of house guy that his dream, like yours, was to open their own joint. What would your advice be, other than make sure you have a more capital than you think you're going to need?
That's always
Did I just steal number one? But what would be
far more capital than you thought you needed?
Yeah, some guy's going to come up to you and you're going to give him an elevator pitch on what does it take? What's your advice?
Pick good people to empower in your company. I guess it's a two-part answer. So the first part is, don't assume that you can do everything, because you can't and you won't. And two, make sure you pick good people to empower to fill those gaps of what you're not able to do yourself. And hopefully the people that you pick will complement the things that you're good at by addressing the things that maybe you're not. I was really lucky. I was extraordinarily lucky to find a chef like Jamie Lynch, who had kind of been flying under the radar a little bit over at Barrington's, but for Bruce Moffat. And then Alejandro Torrio, who was working with me at Butter, and then Mills Howell, who was also working with me at Butter. Each one of us had a different area of responsibility, and each member of that team more than carried their end of the bargain, thereby making a much better product than what I could have done by myself. I mean, I probably could have opened a decent restaurant, but it wouldn't have been a great restaurant. It would have been fine.
So as background for the listeners, Mills is a stud interior design guy, did a lot of work with concrete that's amazing. Alejandro is an amazing marketing stud. I don't know exactly how you put a label on what he does, because he's extremely involved in a lot of things that I don't understand from a
we
marketing
don't
world.
We don't know how to label him.
Yeah, I just know he never stops texting. I do know that. And then obviously Jamie has reached a lot of acclaim just from the work he's done with you guys and being on TV. So just wanted some color for some people. And that brings me to something I wanted to ask you. So nobody believes me when I tell them that the entire book, Art of War, is written on your ceiling, and then when I show people a picture, they think that it's like a vinyl print or something. Would you please put this rumor to rest from the source?
So the Art of War was hand painted on all of the ceilings of all the 5 churches by a artist local to Charlotte named John Norris. And the ceiling in Charlotte took, I think, like 6 or 7 months to do. But no, that's every stitch of it's hand painted. There is no vinyl. There's no chalk. I've heard that a few times. There's no screen printing. I'm sure John Norris might have preferred that for 5 Church Charleston, since it was 40-foot ceilings. But yeah, no, it's all done by hand.
If you haven't seen 5 Church Charleston, it is in an old church with a huge peaked roof. It is one of the most beautiful restaurants, certainly in Charleston, if not in the Southeast.
Thanks, Blake.
It's a gorgeous place. But talking about artists and chefs and marketing people, how do you manage the volatile and different personalities that you interact with every single day? Are you still working on that?
What?
Are you still working on that answer?
I'm still working on it. Yeah. I mean, I think I think what makes for a successful leader is somebody who's able to put themselves in the shoes of the people they're trying to direct, and be conscious of their needs and their struggles, and what inspires them and what kind of puts them down, and take that responsibility seriously. I think a lot of bosses don't really understand what even like the slightest comment that's negative could do to somebody. I mean, that could ruin your whole day. So, I mean, your boss says something to you that means nothing to them, but could like ruin your weekend. And so I think trying to, and I'm not always successful at this. I'm not the end all be all on the subject, but I think that being empathetic and being aware of the kind of people you're trying to lead, particularly when they're people that are artists by nature. I mean, a chef is an artist. A sculptor is an artist. A painter is an artist. These are people that are driven by emotion and passion. Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are works of inspiration, and not, they're not trying to get rich off of, selling a Lamburger. Or maybe they are, but they're not gonna. I think it's understanding that they do it because every dish they put out, they want to make people happy. And that's different than a lot of other retail, and being aware of the emotional component of the people that work with you and for you is absolutely critical.
Yeah, I think that's well said. So a lot of people that know Patrick don't know this about him, but he's actually fairly opinionated, and you wouldn't think it.
What?
You wouldn't think it. But I want to get an opinion question from you. What is the biggest mistake you see restaurateurs make, whether from an operation standpoint or a design standpoint, that just makes you cringe? Like, I've been sitting with you places, and literally you're it's like I can feel your blood pressure go up when something happens. What's your number one? If your wife was sitting here, what would she say was your number one pet peeve?
If my wife was sitting here, oh God. Oh man, that's hard, man.
Is it bad host service? Is it bad? Is it people? I've heard you say to your servers before, being wrong is okay.
Yeah.
But lying about being wrong is not
yeah.
okay. I mean, I've heard you drop so many of these little quips before.
Yeah. I think what bothers me the most. It's hard. So I'm looking. If you ask me as a customer, if I'm a customer walking to a restaurant versus a manager running a restaurant, as a customer, I find indifference in just maddening. Indifference from service staff, indifference from the managers,
just apathy. Apathy.
Just they don't mediocrity. They're perfectly happy being okay, or not giving a shit, and that drives me completely crazy because I just blow up your podcast. Sorry.
No, it's perfect. No, I was timing you.
Oh, your time. I made it pretty. That was like 3 or 4 questions. I think we're in the hospitality business. We're in the business of taking care of other people, and then you walk into places that you could just sense it when you walk in, and nobody there gives a damn. Nobody cares. It's just
going through the motions. They
have some sort of pre-programmed response they have to give you via their steps of service, whether they're server or bartender or whatever, and it's just, it makes it feel insincere. And I'm not saying that every customer is every server's favorite thing in the whole wide world, but I do think that servers and bartenders that are able to, and I'm picking on them because they're the ones that interact with the guests the most, but that are able to make somebody feel really welcome, and not because they're putting on a show, but because they're actually excited about welcoming somebody to the store, and they're excited about the store. It enhances the experience by a factor of 3 or 4 or 5. Whereas a server or a bartender who doesn't give a damn it's like, I just want to leave. I'm like, I don't know why I'm here. I can make food at my house.
Right. So, and you touched on how that is kind of pervasive in large corporate restaurants.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need to name names, but we all can think of a few.
Oh, I'm calling some people out. It's all coming out today, right now.
Hopefully we have enough time. What is your biggest challenge? But obviously, you can only make, so much money or do so many checks out of one restaurant. I mean, what's the biggest challenge associated with that growth? How do you grow in an intelligent way
Right.
and not turn into kind of what is your biggest pet peeve? How do you think you're going to do that in the future, or how have you been able to do it?
Sure. I mean, I think honestly, I think, and anybody who knows me knows that Five Churches face some of these challenges, opening in multiple markets, but that is the question. That's the question at hand for restaurants, because the last 20, 30 years has really seen the scale and expand model. And obviously, Adam, you're in real estate, and so you see it all the time, and it's something that we've already participated in with Five Church. And it's problematic because there's a reason why these places were successful, and they were successful in the beginning because the owner was there, or the chef was there every single day, and they worked with their hands, and they were out talking to all the guests, and every customer mattered, and every dish mattered. And then 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, they're slinging buffalo wings, and they don't really give a damn. It's just like, because they've got 50 stores. There's something that's inherently contradictory about growth in the hospitality sector, in my opinion. And I know that makes me a little bit of a hypocrite because, we've obviously grown quite a bit in a fairly short period of time. But I think, to answer, this is such an obnoxious answer, to answer your question more specifically, is that we have tried to prioritize the culture of our restaurant over the food or the drink or even the design. Although the design carries over from place to place, the culture is what we train the most on, spend the most time on, because how it feels at a Five Church is a lot more important than how it tastes or whether or not the steps of service are exactly the same.
Yeah, the aesthetic is very important to your concept.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you split time between Charlotte and Charleston personally, right? You're in both cities a lot,
yeah.
And both cities are very near and dear to my heart. I think they're both just phenomenal. Obviously, Charleston has one of the highest level food scenes in the Southeast. I think anybody that's spent time there would have to agree with that.
Yeah.
There, Atlanta,
sure.
New Orleans. I mean, they're on a pretty short list. What are the major differences that you see now that you spent a lot of time down there between Charleston and Charlotte? And I'm going to go out on a limb and say Charlotte is not Charleston from a food scene,
right?
Just from the depth of quality level. What can Charlotte do to bridge the gap? Do you see that happening already? Do you think that there's that is going to happen, or is it just the tourist business that just pumps so much money into that downtown peninsula scene that it's going to be hard for Charlotte to catch up?
Charlotte just has to find its own identity. It's got to figure out. And I'm from Charlotte originally, so I can begrudge my own background. I mean, from a culinary standpoint, Charlotte just lacks an identity, and also I kind of feel like it lacks the PR push that Charleston is so successful. I mean, Charleston is once you are accepted by the city of Charleston as being one of them, which has been an interesting process for us at Five Churches, a semi-outsider and now maybe not so much. I think once you're in Charleston, they get behind their own. I mean, they really, really support local talent. And you can see that with the levels of success that some of these guys have reached on a national level because they push their people. And Charlotte, I don't feel like there's the same kind of excitement behind its chefs.
Local boy made good kind of local.
Yeah.
Guy.
Yeah. I mean, I think people, like when Jamie was on Top Chef, I thought that was going to be the end of the world. I thought that we were going to be there's going to be a line around the block every single day. And maybe that's wishful thinking too, but I'm just not sure that the energy and passion, for the restaurant scene in Charlotte is there yet. And that's not to say that it won't be. And I don't want to take anything away from Charlotte's restaurant scene, because I think it's worlds better than it was 5 years ago and light years better than it was 20 years ago. But it's like it needs to reach that tipping point where you see it happen, where it's just like suddenly food becomes the reason why people come to Charlotte. People go to Charleston and they're going there to eat. I mean, that's the reason they're going there. There's history and there's, whatever, horse-drawn carriages and the Battery and whatnot. But people are going there to eat as one of the principal reasons they go to Charleston. They don't come to Charlotte for that reason, and that has to change if we want to change.
Yeah, I think that's well said. So I want to go back to operations real quickly, and we're running out of time, so I've got a couple more questions I want to ask you. We both agree that your front door and your frontline people is everything. We've already talked about it just while we've been on this broadcast. But you're one of the few owners and operators that I know that puts such a heavy emphasis on your host or your hostess. I've heard you call it kind of the heartbeat of your restaurant. Could you just explain to people why you feel that way?
Well, it's I hate to be a wonk here, but it really is the brain of the ops. I mean, if the kitchen is the heart and the lifeblood, then the front desk is the brain, because the front desk is because you're controlling your books. You're going to control if it's going to be a good shift or a bad shift. I mean, you have the ability to say, am I going to pace out the volume for the kitchen appropriately, or am I going to kill them and make them miserable? Am I going to, give my servers an opportunity to have a table or two? I'm going to slam them with 4 tables and thereby assume that the service isn't going to be as good. You have all of that control concentrated in that one role. And on top of that, what's really sort of critical about the front desk is that you are the first and last person that every single guest that comes into the place sees. And you have a direct control over their likelihood to have success. Like when somebody goes to a restaurant, it's like your first day in school. You got an A the first day you walk in. And all you can do is lose that A by not doing your work. And I kind of look at the restaurant business the same way. If somebody walks into Five Church, they're excited about being there. They want to be there and they want to give it an A. But if the front desk person misseats them or makes them wait too long or ignores them or forgets about them, then you're losing letter grades right out of the gate, regardless of the food, regardless of the drink that you serve. And so that position has so much power over the entirety of the operation. And I go to other restaurants and it's like a $10 an hour employee, and that's just far too much importance to sort of thrust upon somebody who in all likelihood is transient and probably not going to be working there, or at least not in that position for a long period of time.
So would an indifferent or apathetic host last very long with you on your floor?
No.
All right, one more opinion question.
I'm pretty sure, I probably shouldn't tell the story, but I'm pretty sure I fired somebody like on Valentine's Day, a half hour into the shift, because they were like on their phone at the front desk, just, not greeting customers and just updating their Facebook page or whatever it is that all these kids do all the time. And I flipped out and was just like, if you're not going to be, these people are coming in here on Valentine's Day, this is for a lot of people, one of the few days of the year they actually go out to eat and drink and enjoy themselves, and you're going to fucking ignore them at the front desk. Like, that's just not acceptable. So
fireable offense.
Anyway, you can edit that whole section out.
No chance. No chance. All right, one more opinion question, and then I'll let you go.
Yeah.
And I know that we kind of think along the same lines here. Many times I can tell if a restaurant is going to suck because of their music right when I walk in the door. Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
Totally agree.
Why
totally
is that?
Agree. Because it's just part of the experience. I mean, the music is the same as the lights, is the same as the smell. I mean, it's one of your senses. And I won't say what restaurant it is, although the people that work for me know because I told the story. But I went to a restaurant recently that was supposedly a very, very fancy restaurant in Charleston, and they were playing like nonstop 90s alt rock, and it was like a white tablecloth fine dining. And it was just like, I mean, I guess if I'm in the right mood, REM is fine, but like, I don't want to listen to REM all night if I'm trying to have a romantic dinner. I want
to listen to the entire Bush 16 Stone album.
Exactly.
While I'm eating foie gras.
Yeah, exactly. Where is Stone Temple Pilots when you need them?
R.I.P. Scott Whalen.
I want Sinatra. I want Tony Bennett. I mean, that's kind of cheesy and classic, but that's what I want when I go out to a fancy restaurant. And so, or at least some simple, inoffensive, supporting ambient music, not somebody whining about whatever. I'm sorry. I grew up in the 90s, so I shouldn't say that, but it's true.
On that
my
note,
wife
Pat,
my wife loved the soundtrack, though. To be fair, she dug it. She loves 90s all right.
how many times when you guys are out to dinner does she just be like, Pat, can we just for once go out to dinner? Can we just for once go out to dinner? How many times have you heard that? Oh
my God. Yeah, no. It doesn't, it's not, that goes flying out the window. Anybody who, and that's just not a restaurant owner, that's anybody who's in the business. It disintegrates. Although that is a good litmus test for a really great place, because if you go to a place and that doesn't trigger or it's limited, that means that place is really awesome.
That's true. That's fair.
That's a really impressive joint if they can, kind of withstand the critical eye of a restaurateur.
I agree. Well, Pat, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and talk to us today. I've learned a lot.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. Good luck with this.
Anything parting shot? Anything you want people to know about Five Church, about what you guys have coming up?
No.
Perfect.
It's all smoke and mirrors, buddy. It's all mystery.
All right, buddy. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Bye.